Hey Brian, welcome to the podcast. How you doing today, sir?
Really good. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Man, I'm glad you're on here. I cannot wait to talk about Wildlife Partners, all the amazing things you guys got going on, your association with the Houston Safari Club Foundation, the convention coming up. But at the very beginning, I'd love to give a little introduction to all the listeners. So if you wouldn't mind, maybe tell me a little bit about where you grew up and your love for the outdoors, wildlife, and then we'll kind of dive into your work with Wildlife Partners.
Yeah, I grew up in San Antonio, Texas, with my brother Chris. We moved here in 1984, and I think, my love of the outdoors probably originated with a fishing pole and a BB gun. Uh, we had a pond in our neighborhood, and I just couldn't get away from hanging out there all the time. I just liked going fishing and hanging out with my kids. Back in the 80s, it was a little different world. It was kick the kids out and come back at dark. And we, had a BB gun that we stashed in the bushes that our parents didn't know about. So hunting birds with a BB gun and fishing at the neighborhood pond was kind of the introduction. And later in life, I got into a little bit more extravagant hunting, if you will. And I really enjoy bird hunting, but my happy place is Alaska, and been to Alaska several times, and just about everything you can kill there. And I'm looking forward to getting back there next September.
Nice. So what specific area in Alaska do you go to the most?
Well, I hunted with Rob Jones just outside of McGrath in the Revelation Range. Hunted sheep and caribou, and I killed a moose there. And then I've hunted with Sam Peages down near Cordova. Hunted brown bear, black bear, mountain goat, and then I've also hunted out on Nunavak Island. I killed a muskox there.
Oh, wow, man. That is the one state I have not gone to yet, and I am counting down the time that I can actually get out there and explore. It has been like it's kind of that golden thing. Like one of these days I'm going to get there, so I cannot wait. Well, I know you kind of had a history, working in the oil and gas world before you kind of started and co-founded, Wildlife Partners. So, we'll kind of jump into that step of how you ended up, creating this and tell us a little bit. I mean, it's a hugely innovative wildlife conservation company. You guys have so many things going on and things you offer. Obviously, the world's largest breeder and broker of exotic wildlife, well, at least in the U.S. here. And I mean, there's so many different transactions, things you guys have done and worked with people all around. So I just kind of want to give people a little introduction for those who may not be familiar with the company and kind of what you guys offer. And then we'll kind of dive into some details from there.
Yeah, so we are a breeder of exotic wildlife, but we really function in two capacities. One of them is we work with about 1,000 landowners in the state where we provide consulting, we supply them with the animals, and then we buy all of their production. But the other side of our business is that we recognize there's lots of people that love wildlife and love conservation and really love tax advantages. So we created a product where people throughout the United States that don't necessarily own real estate in Texas can participate in the industry. So about half of our business is people that don't live here, and the other half is people that have ranches here in the state.
Well, talk to me about how those people who are outside of the state or just non-land owning individuals are able to get in there and work with you guys. What does that look like? What's that model?
So one of the things I realized as I was getting involved in the wildlife business here in Texas is that most of the landowners, they were not educated at all about the tax aspects of breeding non-native wildlife. And in fact, they weren't taking any deductions whatsoever. They were just spending money that was after tax money to do something that they enjoyed doing. And whether they had success or failure with it wasn't relevant. They were doing it because it was kind of cool. And so what I discovered is that the animals that we breed, they're all designated as livestock. So a kudu, a Cape buffalo, a bongo, a giraffe, a Grant's gazelle, Thomson's gazelle, doesn't matter what it is, in Texas, they are designated as livestock, and the IRS recognizes them the same as they do a cow. And so as the result of that, they're tax deductible. And there's been two tax bills that have been put forward. One of them was the 2017 Tax Cut and Jobs Act, and the most recent one was the Big Beautiful Bill, both of which made these animals 100% tax deductible the year that you buy them. So for people that don't own real estate, we form an LLC, and that LLC buys animals. But the problem is those people don't have anywhere to put them. But my brother and I own a lot of real estate. So what we do is we're basically a VRBO. We're a vacation rental for non-native wildlife from all over the world that other people own. So we have about 12,000 acres. So an LLC, let's just say it's an $11 million LLC, will allocate 600 acres to housing the animals that they own. But the benefit for them is they're getting all those tax deductions in the first year. We then provide the services of keeping track of the animals, making sure they're eating and they're healthy and they're reproducing. And then we sell all of their offspring on their behalf, and they get distributions in the mail as the result of that. And those distributions are all long-term capital gains because we hold the offspring for a year before we sell them. So it's a very unique investment model, but the clientele's not unique. There are thousands and thousands of people in this state that love being a part of the wildlife industry. And because the industry is focused in Texas, it's very easy to get in if you own real estate. But the personality related to who likes doing this, they're all over the United States. They're everywhere. No different with people that are a part of Houston Safari Club or any of the other Safari Club organizations. Texas doesn't have a stronghold on people that love wildlife conservation, and we certainly don't have a stronghold on people that like tax deductions and making money. And so that's really what our business is about.
Well, I mean, and like you were saying too, there's the buying and the selling of exotics. You got obviously the capture services, ranch consulting, land management improvements, fence construction. There's so many different aspects to that. And I think that one thing when people hear the idea of these exotics going around, they don't really appreciate maybe that in Texas, obviously, we have quite an area and habitat that holds very healthily these different exotic animals. And in some cases, there are certain exotic species here in Texas that there are more of here than there are in the other areas of the world combined. And that has been something that has safeguarded the protection of these species. And I think that is a thing that some people think, oh, the hunting aspect or, whether it's the livestock aspect, we are helping to keep some of these species around by having these types of industries and services here, which I'd love for you to kind of touch base on from your experience, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah. So I'll just use one species as an example, which is a Dama gazelle. And most people that have hunted Africa have never seen a Dama gazelle. And it's because they're critically endangered. There's probably less than 50 of them left in the wild. And they're all in places where we don't go hunting because it's not safe. And so we don't see them, as hunters. And it's very interesting. The zoo community is where our animals have originated. Zoos breed animals, and when they run out of space, they send them to Texas. And so historically, the zoo community has done a really, really great job of gaining credit. They gain credit for conservation of various species. But to kind of put this species into perspective, throughout all of the zoos in the United States, there may be 100 Dama gazelles. There's about 2,500 of them in the whole world. So 100 sounds like a lot. That sounds like a big number. Well, my company has 250. So our company alone, not taking into consideration all of the landowners that we work with, we hold 10% of the world's population of this species. And when you start looking at all of the other landowners that own these animals as well, you're looking at somewhere north of 2,000 Dama gazelles are under the control of conservative, passionate, hunting people that love the outdoors, that love wildlife, and they're breeding these animals for multiple reasons. One of them is that they like them. They're cool. It's pretty cool to own one of the rare species in the world. But the biggest driving factor to this is that there's a financial model to it. They can go out and spend $100,000 buying Dama gazelles, and they can generate $30,000 or $40,000 a year of income strictly from selling the babies. They don't even have to wait until the males grow up and become, a trophy. They can generate that income when the animal's a year old. So because of this financial model, it's always been said in the hunting community that when you give something value, people take care of it. And the hunting model in Africa and many other places, it revolves around giving value to animals that would otherwise be a nuisance because they would, decimate lives, they would decimate farming areas and other type things. But when you give them value, people go to great lengths to protect them. So you see lots of land in Africa that's been conserved for the purpose of hunting because people from America are willing to go pay to go hunt. And it's no different with the animals that we breed here, whether it's a Grevy zebra or a Kenyan mountain bongo or an Addax or a Dama gazelle. These animals are given value as the result of our tax code and as a result of the marketplace that's developed here in the United States. And a small portion of it revolves around hunting, but a large portion of it revolves around bragging rights. I got cool animals on my property, and we love seeing the animal born, and we love seeing them grow up, and we love being a part of the whole process. But you cannot deny the financial benefits of doing this, and that's the reason we have 10% of the world's population, and it's the reason why Texas is holding 2,000 animals out of 2,500 that are critically endangered. It's not just because we think they're cool. It is the financial model that drives it.
Well, I think it's well said, and I think that gives people kind of a good understanding of, there is those things, the legacy of conservation that's there, but also the ability to make money, save money, and be able to have business that comes with these things to be able to, kind of give that whole 365, 360 view of it all, what you can do, how you can be involved. And I mean, it's just amazing to see all these incredible creatures and knowing that if we didn't have these types of business models around, we might not have those animals around. And so I think that's a huge win all around. Just when I was thinking about your connection there with the Houston Safari Club, tell me about how you guys got involved and what is important to you about being a part and a partner with that organization. And yeah, just love to hear your thoughts on that.
You know, um, I think that in 2016 thereabouts, we attended. It may have been a crawfish boil or one of the sporting clay shoots or something like that. I don't remember exactly what the beginning was, but around that time we became a corporate sponsor and we started coming to the show and exhibiting at the show. And we met John Pepper and his business partner, and really just got treated quite well. People were very inclusive, and they were very curious about our business model. There may have even been a little skepticism initially, but I think as time went by, I think that people within the organization realized that not only did we have a great idea, but that we were doing something that was worthwhile, not just for wildlife, but for the people that own them. And we've attended every convention and lots of events, and we've been a sponsor. And Joe Bitar has been great to work with, and we just we love the organization and we love the membership. When we come to the convention, while it is the smallest of the three conventions we go to, it's the most intimate. We have the best conversations. We get the opportunity to really sit down and kind of take a deep dive into what we do. Whereas at some of the other shows, it's just mind-boggling of people, with this question or that question. We don't really get to be attentive. And I think that the intimacy of the show really brings out the best of not just the vendors that are there, but also the clientele.
That's a great point. I think that's something that a lot of my other guests and people who are, whether they're sponsors or partners, have always talked about that ability of being able to get in and actually have some good time with the vendors and be able to talk about their experiences, find a hunt that's right for you, or a potential business relationship, as in your case. And that's something that, it's you do have that time, you do have that ability, and there's so many different things for those to experience. One thing that I've been asking people who have been going for quite some time, as you have, is for those people who might be first time visitors, people who are thinking about going to the convention for the first time. What was it that you would maybe talk to them? And I know you kind of touched on it a little bit here, but what are some things that you would tell them and maybe kind of paint that picture of what they would experience coming to the Houston Safari Club convention for the first time?
Yeah, it's interesting. I wanted to go to Africa for a long time, and I was nervous about going. And really, what I was looking for was I just needed somebody to tell me, Brian, it's going to be okay. We got your back, and it's going to be fine. You have all these thoughts in the back of your mind about if you're going to be safe and if everything is going to be okay. And the deal is when you go to these other shows, and we're sponsors of the other organizations, but when you go to these other shows, it is just so overwhelming. And the last thing you want to do is ask a stupid question and look like an idiot. If you don't know what you're talking about. It's like I didn't even know where Kenya was on a map. I didn't know anything about what farm, what farming wildlife was in South Africa. Like I didn't know anything about any of this stuff. And so, there's an intimidation factor of walking into a booth when you're a novice, not knowing what questions to ask, not really knowing what you're looking for, and really not knowing what a good deal is from a bad deal. And so there's this vulnerability that comes into play of, am I going to get ripped off? Am I going to get to Africa and find out that I went with the wrong person? And what I like, I think, most about the Houston Safari Club is I never have felt that kind of pressure. It's an environment where it feels like it's okay to be an idiot. It's okay to not know. It's okay to ask a question, and because there's not 20 people walking by a booth at any given time, I think the exhibitors that are there are willing to take a little bit more time to hold your hand, to answer questions that you don't even know to ask, and to provide a little more insight into what you're getting into. So what I would just say, if you're a newcomer and you've never been to Houston Safari Club, and this coming year is your first time to show up, walk in the door and talk to people from Alaska, and talk to people from Africa, and talk to people from New Zealand, and talk to somebody from every different place that you can think of, whether it's fishing or whether it's hunting, and just tell them, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know anything about how any of this works, but God, I love the outdoors. I love hunting and fishing, and I really want to cut my teeth, and I don't know where to start. Can you help? And what you'll find is people that are willing to take the time with you, and they'll hold your hand through the process, and they'll give you the opportunity to get comfortable enough to make a decision. And it just feels like there's less pressure in the environment than what I feel. And I'll equate it to this. When I go to, whether it's Atlanta or Nashville, I feel like I'm working. Like I feel like it's work. I'm working there. It's a job and I'm working. When I'm at Houston Safari Club, I feel like I'm hanging out with my friends. I feel like I can joke around and be silly and be goofy, and it's just a more lighthearted environment. And I encourage anybody that is looking to take the time to get a little educated and find more out about the hunting and fishing community and the art and all the cool things that are there. It's a great place to go. And it's a great place to bring your kids, because they too can participate and kind of get the feel, the lay of the land, without having to go to Nashville for 4 days. Or it's a great place to expose your kids and newcomers to hunting and fishing.
That is really well said, and I think it really sums up that experience. And I love that you mentioned that about like the kids, because it is a family-friendly show. There's something for everyone there, and I think there is a lot to explore, a lot of amazing people, and that kind of family-friendly, setting. It's just a real relaxed environment to where you can be able to spend that time you need to learn more, figure out what's going to be the best avenue of approach for any of the places you want to go out and visit and maybe hunt and experience. I mean, it's really, I think you sum that up quite well. For those who are interested in learning a little bit more about Wildlife Partners and, maybe getting involved, having a conversation with you, I was curious if you can just go ahead and maybe, give some websites and socials where people can kind of get a little bit more information and maybe take that next step.
Yeah. So one of the other things I did want to mention, you had talked about our consulting business with landowners and all these other services that we offer. One of the things that we just started doing is my brother and I got certified to do continuing education for CPAs. So what we've learned is there's lots of people out there that have CPAs that are great at getting their taxes filed, but maybe not so great at giving them strategy on how to maximize their tax benefits. So we've recently started doing seminars for CPA landowners. I did the first one at Horseshoe Bay maybe 2 weeks ago. There were about 100 participants, and it was 8 hours of tax talk, which you would think would put most people to sleep, but everybody was very engaged. It was very helpful, I think. And we're now doing 1 hour webinars where you can get your CPA or you can get on and learn about how to do some of these things. So if you go to our website, it's www.wildlifepartners.com. There's everything you need to know about the events that we host, the company itself, really all the things related to our company. The other thing you can do is go to what is referred to as exoticauction.com. It's a website where we sell animals. The website right now is down. We're going to launch it later this week. It's been something that we've had up for a couple of years, but we just made a bunch of changes to it. So it's kind of a new revamped look that'll be coming out later this week. But if you own a ranch and you're looking to buy animals via an online auction, you can go there. It's exoticauction.com. So my email address is brian@wildlifepartners.com. If you have any questions related to tax or what you're doing on your ranch or species or things related to this environment, we're happy to help any way we can.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, for letting us know a little bit about Wildlife Partners, taking a deep dive in there, and looking forward to spending some time with you at the Houston Safari Club convention. Again, everyone, that's January 23rd, 24th, 25th, 2026 in the Woodlands. And make sure you go and check out Brian's booth and say hello when you get a chance. Thank you, Brian, and looking forward to hanging out sometime soon and talking more about arrowheads and artifacts.
That sounds great. I'll look forward to it.
Cheers. You take care.